fair enough. I've began the recording. Okay. Yesterday we saw something like we derived the equation of refractive index. We saw two types of refractive indices yesterday. In fact, one was absolute refractive index. What is absolute refractive index, and what is relative refractive index? What is absolute refractive index, or what is the requirement of an absolute refractive index? Can anyone tell me?
The first medium should be vacuum or air.
Yeah, it should be vacuum or air. See, because in real life, vacuum is a very difficult or nearly impossible thing. So we say that the first medium should be air with respect to any other medium. Okay, and what is the special characteristic of absolute refractive index?
Sir, it should be more than one.
It will be more than one. It will always be more than one. Correct? Yes. How? What does the refractive index depend on? Yes, anyone? No one? Optical density of the medium. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes. We had derived the formula of refractive index in terms of angle of incidence and angle of refraction. Do you recall? Yes. Do you all recall? We have derived it on basis of that. Correct. So, if we have derived on basis of angle of refraction and angle of incidence, what was the actually relation between them? How would you relate the refractive index, angle of incidence, and angle of refraction? What is the relation between them? Yes, children, what is the relation? Anyone? No one knows the relation. There's no relation between them, in short. Am I correct? No relationship. Okay, fair enough. No relation. Chalo, let us take it as no relationship. Any relation between refractive index, speed of light that we are aware of?
Yes, sir.
Yes, what is the relationship between them? Okay, tell me about absolute refractive index. Fair enough. I am totally comfortable with it. Even if you are able to tell me
Absolute refractive index equals to velocity of light in air upon velocity in given medium.
correct. Fair enough. Thank you for that. Actually, that was a great thing. See, actually, when I ask you questions and if you are not able to answer me, that gives the focus and the studies that are going on right now. Okay, the first relation actually is with respect to angle of incidence, and we have first enforced on the fact that what is the relationship between refractive index and angle of incidence and what you can say angle of refraction of a given medium. So if you all are not able to give that relation, then it becomes difficult for yourself. Sorry.
Sin I upon sin R.
Okay, that's great. That's good. Thank you for that. So mu is equal to 1 is sin I upon sin R. Sin I upon sin R. And the second relationship is between C and B. Any other relation that we derived? If anyone can recall of. Any relationship between wavelength of light?
Yes, so wavelength of light equals to velocity upon frequency.
Yeah, that is correct. But related to refractive index, did we have any relation? Do you recall this relation? Lambda dash. I am naming it a dash, means wavelength of light in that medium is equal to lambda A upon mu. Do you recall this was the last relationship that we derived? Do you recall this? Yeah, this was our last relation that we derived on. So that is very important for us. Okay, and we took various things. Now today our main aim is to just to see that how can we understand what happens, okay, if a ray of light travels from one medium to another or medium 2 to medium 1. For example, this is the separation medium, this is medium 1. I'm not worried about rarer or denser, okay, and this medium 2.
So the whiteboard is little bit, no sir, it is fine now.
Whiteboard is visible for
No sir, it is fine now.
fine. Okay, so fair enough. This is medium, there's one medium 1 and medium 2. There are two media. Okay, now what happens? For example, medium 1 is rarer medium and medium 2 is denser medium. Okay, a ray of light is allowed to incident at a particular point. I draw a normal at that point. What will happen to the ray of light? Can anyone tell me what will happen to the ray of light?
So what is the medium?
This is a rarer medium, this is a denser medium.
Bend towards the normal.
Bend towards the normal. So slide towards the normal. Agreed?
Yes, sir.
So this becomes angle of refraction. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Now think, instead of this being our first medium, okay, instead of this being our first medium, I exactly the refracted path, okay, the medium are same, the pair of medium remain the same, but what am I doing is I'm taking the refracted path, now I'm converting into incident. That means your source is here. Where is the source? Source is in the second medium. Okay, your source is near the second medium. So what do you feel will happen if the source is second medium?
It will bend away from the normal.
It will bend away from the normal. So actually what will happen is, now this was the initial incident path. Okay, now it will become the refracted path. Okay, that becomes the refracted path. Initially what happened? Initially this was my incident path and this was my refracted path. Then the pair of medium remained the same. Okay, this was medium 1 which was rarer, this was medium 2 which was say for example air into water. Okay, now what happens, I've kept the source of light in water and I've allowed it to travel along the earlier refracted path. Okay, so when it gets back into air, it will trace a backward path of incidence. What will it trace? Backward path of incidence. And this is called as principle of reversibility. When a ray of light is allowed to pass from medium 1 to medium 2, okay, it will trace a certain path, the incident ray will trace a certain path, and the refracted ray will trace a certain path. When we reverse the process, when the source is now in the second medium and it is tracing a original refracted path, then after it enters the first medium, it will travel towards the incident path. Are you getting me?
Yes, sir.
So for a while, let us understand this is I1 and this is R1, correct?
Yes.
I1 and R1. So when I am writing this mu1, okay, 1 mu2, what will I write?
Sine I1 upon sine R1.
Yes, sine of I1 upon sine of R1. Correct? Is it correct up to here?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Now, what have I done is in the second case, this has become our angle of incidence, I2. See, I2 and R1 are same, huh? Remember that. And this becomes our angle of refraction, R2. Now, what will be medium 2 with respect, 1 with respect to medium 2? Can someone give me this relation now? Simple relation. There is nothing new that we are going to see.
What, sir? Could you repeat?
What is the relation? This refractive index of medium 1 with respect to medium
Sine
2.
R2 upon sine R2.
Correct? Sine of I2 upon sine of R2. Everyone agrees with this?
Yes, sir.
All of us? Fair enough?
Yes, sir.
Now, we already said I1 and R2 are same. I1 is equal to R2. And we said I2 is equal to, or R1 is equal to I2. Okay. What am I going to do is, I am substituting I2 as R1 and R2 as I1. Can I do that for this? Can I write it like this? C is equal to sine of R1 upon sine of I1. Can I write this?
Yes, sir.
Fair enough? Okay. Do you feel this is a reciprocal of this?
Yes, sir.
Correct? This is sine of I1 upon sine R1. Now it is sine of R1 upon sine I1. Okay. So can I write it as like this? Is equal to 1 upon sine of I1 upon sine of R1. Can I write like this?
Yes, sir.
So what is sine of I1 upon sine R1? What is sine of I1 upon sine R1? 1 mu 2. Isn't it 1 mu 2?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it? Isn't it 1 mu 2?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Am I correct? So yes, we can say that the relationship between these, like, see, like this. Let me see, where's my whiteboard? I'll share that board. Okay. I hope this is visible.
Yes, sir.
So principle of reversibility gives us a certain relation. Let me write that relation. The relation says that refractive index of medium 2 with respect to medium 1 is nothing but the reciprocal of refractive index of medium 1 with respect to medium 2. This one, see this. This is the case. 1 mu 2 is nothing but equal to 1 upon 2 mu 1. This is the relation, reciprocal. And this, what is this called as? This is called as principle of reversibility of path of light traced when it travels from one path medium to another, and it is allowed back to travel from medium 2 to medium 1. I hope we understand what is written on the board.
Yes, sir.
Clear?
Yes,
Sure?
sir.
Okay. So that is what is the principle of reversibility of path of light. And we have to keep it in the mind, children, because this will need some time or the other, not very often, but yes, this is sometimes it is asked, sometimes, once in a while. So we have to remember this. Okay. What is this called as? Can anyone tell me again? What is this called as? Can anyone tell me what is this called as?
1 mu2 equals to 1 upon 2 mu1.
Yeah. And what is this phenomena called as? Or what is this property
Principle of
called as?
reversibility.
Principle. Yes. Principle of reversibility of path of light. Okay. Principle of reversibility of path of light. So that is how we can speak of. Now we are coming to one more important concept. You all in your school, you might have visited the laboratory, the science laboratory. Have you all? Have you all visited the science laboratory or no?
Yes, sir.
Great. Now, if you all have visited it, you might have seen a glass slab. In fact, in grade 9, actually, unfortunately, last year you all did not have any experiments at all. But you might at least have seen a glass slab. Have you all seen a glass slab? Glass slab is nothing but a cuboidal glass material, proper cuboidal. Okay, a very proper cuboidal. You might at least have seen a cuboid, correct? You know what is a cuboid.
Yes.
Yes,
So a
sir.
glass in a shape of cuboid will be called as a rectangular glass slab. Okay. Now think of this glass slab. There is a ray of light which is allowed to incident from air onto one of its parallel edges and longer edge. Let us speak about the longer parallel edge. So this is a ray of light coming from here, okay, and it is incident at one of the parallel edge. Okay. Now, had the cube not been there, where would the light travel? Had this prism slab not been there, what would have happened?
Straight line.
Straight line.
Straight. It would have traveled straight without any deviation, without anything. Correct? It would have traveled, traced a straight path. So let us see then where it would have traveled. This would be where it would have traveled. Correct? This would have been the path of light. But now we have, it's not like there is a, what you can say, glass slab that is there with you. So what is happening is our ray of light is traveling from air into glass. What do you feel will happen?
It will bend towards the normal.
Bend towards the normal. Agreed? Everyone agrees with this?
Yes, sir.
Great. So if this is the case, if this is the normal, then the ray of light should bend towards the normal. So here, correct? Is it correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Slight deviation, we'll see a little bit of deviation, if not more. Let me not show this much of deviation. Let me show a little less. Fine. It will travel here. Okay. So now, do we agree that this particular part, okay, angle of incidence, where is it? Here, this is the angle of incidence. Agreed?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And what is this?
Angle of refraction.
Agreed, everyone? Angle of refraction.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now let us come back to one more thing. Now it has incident on inside the refracted ray has now incident on what? It has incident on the second parallel edge of the parallel edge of the cuboid. So this is the second parallel edge of the cuboid. I'm drawing a normal to that edge. What do you feel will happen when this goes on? After it strikes the surface, what will happen?
Away from the normal.
Do you know how much away will it travel? Just now we studied principle of reversibility of light. So this angle, what will be the measure of this angle? Can you tell me what will be the measure of this angle?
60 degree.
No, this R and this will be equal. Agreed or not?
Yes, sir.
Why? Because these two normals, they means that they are parallel to each other, and that refracted ray which we have drawn is the transversal. This ray, this one, this is the refracted ray. It's the transversal, so this becomes equal to R. So automatically, if the angle of refraction now has become the angle of incidence within the what you can say glass slab, then the refracted angle will be equal to the original incident angle. Agreed or not?
Yes, sir.
So that is what is going to happen. So your ray of light, when it travels from here, it will travel like this. So this is what is your emergent. Now we'll say that it is the emergent ray. What is this? Because it is emerging out. What will you call that?
Emergent ray.
Emergent ray. Why? Because it is emerging out of the glass. So I'm drawing that. Sorry, this was the line by mistake. I don't know which button I pressed. Okay. Yeah, this is the emergent ray. Fine. Okay. So now, do you think that the earlier ray and the new ray, they are parallel to each other?
Yes,
Do you
sir.
feel? Because this becomes equal to I, correct? This has become equal to I. So they are parallel to each other. They emerge parallel. Okay, now the distance between these two rays. Okay, the distance between these two rays. And what is the meaning of distance when I say distance? Do you know? Do you know what is the meaning of distance? Or I would say displacement. Do you know what is the displacement? Shortest distance, correct? The shortest distance.
Yes,
And
sir.
how do you find the shortest distance? By drawing a perpendicular. So we draw a perpendicular within the lines, the two lines, and the length of this part, this particular length, I'm speaking about this length, is called as lateral displacement. What is this called as?
Lateral displacement.
So what is lateral displacement? Lateral displacement is nothing but it is the displacement of a ray of light when it is allowed to incident, okay, on one of the parallel edge of a glass slab, and it emerges out from the other parallel edge. Then the incident ray and emergent ray are parallel to each other, and the distance between the incident ray and the emergent ray is called as lateral displacement. Understood? Understood, everyone?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So this is lateral displacement. Okay, can someone define it for us then? Can someone define what is lateral displacement?
The shortest distance between the two rays.
I'm really sorry. Just give me 2 minutes, 2 seconds. Let the noise go away so that I can hear you properly. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, can you repeat?
The shortest distance between the two refracted rays.
Let us not say two refracted because we are not speaking about the refracted rays only. We are saying the shortest, it's the distance or the displacement between the incident ray and an emergent ray when a ray of light is allowed to incident on one of the parallel edges and emerges out in the first medium from the other parallel edge. Clear? Yes, I hope it is acceptable.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, this diagram sometimes is asked in the exams. Okay. Now, let us understand what are the main components of the diagram. First is labeling A, B, C, D. These are the labeling. One. Secondly, showing this rays. If you do not show rays in the ray diagram, your diagram is meaningless. There are 3 rays in this entire diagram. One, the incident ray. Second, the refracted ray. Third, the emergent ray. Can you, do you know? See here, I'm showing you. See here, can you see 1, 2, second ray, and the third ray? Can you see this?
Yes,
3
sir.
rays
Yes,
are
sir.
shown. These are very important. And in fact, in light, any diagram that you draw in the entire light chapter, if any question is related to light, and if you are drawing a diagram, the arrows are utmost compulsory and necessary. We cannot draw a diagram without an arrow. It is considered to be an incomplete diagram. Your marks will be deducted if the arrows are not there. Understood? The third important component. So first component I gave you is the labeling. The second is the rays with the arrows. The third is your normals. You should be drawing normal at each point where refraction takes place. There is refraction taking place twice in this diagram. Agreed or not?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
I have
sir.
shown 2 normals. And the last important thing, which we feel is not at all important, is the naming the vertices of the cube. And last but not the least, after this, we have to name the mediums: air, glass, and air. So how is the ray passing? Ray is passing from air, it gets refracted into glass, and after glass, it emerges out into air again, which becomes parallel to the original incident ray. Understood what is important to know?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let us understand when will this be more or less? When will the lateral displacement will be more or less? What are the possibilities for us to make changes in the lateral displacement? Tell me. You are looking at the diagram. I am now stopping the diagram now. Tell me, what do you feel? Which part will decide whether the lateral displacement is more or less? Yes, what will decide it? Tell me.
The
Nothing
refracted
decides. Sorry. Yes, Gauri.
refracted ray.
Refracted ray. What does the refracted ray depend on?
Or sir, the maybe angle of refraction.
Angle of, yeah. Now you are much closer. Now, what is the angle of refraction dependent on?
Angle of incidence.
Angle of incidence. The first thing, see, more is the angle of incidence, more will be the angle of refraction. Agreed or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Refraction, more will be the lateral displacement. Simple logic. A very simple logic. Second, what is the second important thing? Yes. What is the second important thing?
Refractive index.
Sorry?
Refractive index.
Refractive index of the medium. Correct. Perfect. Okay. Refractive index of the medium is a very important role. It plays a very, see, if instead of just a glass, ordinary glass, I would have kept a crown glass or a flint glass, what would have happened? The refraction would have gone more for the same angle of incidence. Correct? So more is the refractive index, more is the lateral displacement. Okay, what else?
Sir, the thickness of the glass.
Surface. Correct. Why? What will happen? If there is more thickness of the surface, there is more optical density. So if the thickness increases, lateral displacement also increases. And yes, it also depends on the color of light which we incident. If you remember last year you studied about color of light, we spoke about that also. Correct? Spoke about color of light. So your violet colored light will refract the most. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
So therefore, that is what is important for us. So if it's a violet colored light, okay, it will see more lateral displacement. If it is a red colored light, it will have a lesser, what you can say, lateral displacement for the given pair of medium. Understood?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So this was important for us. Okay, the same diagram I'm repeatedly showing. Okay, this diagram. Just 1 minute. Let me check when it appears on the screen. Yes, this diagram. I hope you all understand this diagram. You will be able to draw on your own. Okay,
Yes,
the
sir.
labelings
Yes,
again
sir.
Yes,
important.
sir.
The rays should be shown. The normals should be shown. The labeling to the vertices should be shown. All important. And yes, I did not mention about the angle of incidence. When I say the rays, the angle of incidence, the angle of refraction, and the emergent angle, okay, should also be named. If possible, when we say I show the angular incident ray, I mean to say this. You write this incident ray with the ray, writing the spelling of it. Incident ray. This is the refracted ray. See, this comes for 3 marks, but see, look at it. It is not so difficult for a 3-mark question, and no one asks you to measure the angle and draw it. The only thing is when it passes from air into glass, it should appear to have shifted towards the normal. That's it. And when it comes back to the air, it should appear as shifted away from the normal.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So in class test we have 3 chapters. Machine is also there.
Question also is there. Which chapter?
1, 2, and 3. And the test is starting from the on 21st of June.
21st of June. Oh.
Yes, so on this
And which
Monday.
chapter are you speaking? Third chapter.
Yes,
Yes,
the
sir.
machine is also there.
Sorry?
Machine is also
Machine,
there.
sir.
Machine is also there.
Chapter 3 machine.
Machine.
All
Okay.
the
You
3
should have told
chapters.
me. You should have told me
So
earlier.
they told us 2-3 days ago. 2 days ago, I mean.
No, today also, if you would have, before I started the session, if you would have informed me, I would have started with that chapter of machines. I would have done that.
Sir, if you have the
So
recording,
just
you
a
can
second,
send
let
on
me
group.
see.
The recordings. See, on 21st means sorry, Saturday and Sunday. Shall I give you a basic idea, a little bit of theme in this 15 minutes about
Yes,
machine as a
sir.
chapter? Shall I?
Yes, sir.
Okay, first of all, we'll stop here now for this. Now let us speak of machines. First of all, we have studied about machine a bit in the earlier classes. What is a machine? What do you feel is a machine?
Anything that makes us our work easy.
Sorry?
Anything that
Correct, but I could not hear only thing. Yes.
anything that can make our work easy.
Anything
Called
that makes our work easy. Correct? Is called as a machine. Okay. Can we say that it makes us apply less effort?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And it also help us to gain the speed.
Yes, speed. So see, either in some cases you will find effort being applied less. In some cases, you'll see that the speed is increased. Am I correct? This is what is the role of a machine. So a machine is a simple device, or I would say, see, there are different kinds of machines we have seen us. Correct. There are simple machines, there are complex machines. There are actually two.
Excuse me,
types.
sir.
Yes. Yes,
Sir,
Anand.
physics is on 28th June.
Physics is on 28th.
Yes.
Again, a difference. Can you all confirm within yourselves?
No,
Still,
sir.
I will
What I
continue with nothing.
so
Still,
what
I'll
I told
continue.
is the test. All the test is starting from
Are
21st.
starting from 21st.
Yes, I have told like
Yeah,
that.
okay.
Maybe you have.
Sir, and before physics, there is a holiday.
Before
Yeah.
physics, there's a holiday. Okay. I'll have to. Did you all inform this to Omkar, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Fair enough. So what I'll do is I'll talk to him if I can get an. Yeah, anyways, this Sunday I'll be pouring one more session on Sunday. So Sunday I'll this now just I'm briefing up machines. So Sunday I'll actually teach machines. Okay, whatever units I'm able to cover. And if I get apart from 28 is what date? What is the date?
Monday.
Let me check.
Monday.
Okay, so we have next week somewhere. We'll have one Thursday anyways. Will you all be attending the sessions on during the exams?
Yes, sir.
You all will be, because I don't think so. It's a 20 mark, 30 mark exam. How much?
20 marks.
20 marks only. Sir.
20 marks. So I think so you can spend at least an hour for physics. So I'll try to take 2 sessions of physics in that particular time. Okay,
Yes.
is it fair enough?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So let us continue now a little brief of the machine. Okay, let us brief up a little bit of machine. Sure, let us get back. So machine makes our work easy. Actually, there are 2 ways that it can make work easy. Either it will help us in such a way that less effort can fetch in more outcome, or it can increase the speed of doing work. Correct. Either it can decrease the effort, our effort, or it can increase the speed of the work being done. So in short, do you feel that machine is helping in somewhere in efficiency of doing work?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Correct. Efficiency of doing work. Fair enough. Sure. Now let us see what are the things that are important in a machine. There are 3 important things in a machine. One is the object on which the work is being done. For example, think about a what do you say? A tailor. What is the main tool for a tailor?
Scissors.
What is the main tool for a tailor?
Scissors.
Sorry?
Scissors.
Pair of scissors, correct? We agree that pair of scissors is a tool. Now, think of if the tailor had to cut the cloth and he didn't have a scissor with him. Think of it. What would have happened?
Sir,
He would have used knife and it would be a long process.
Yeah, it would have effort would have been applied a little more. He would have to take care every like maybe 1 feet or one
and
whatever it is,
accuracy.
to take care that he's cutting across along the crease. Okay. Secondly, accuracy. Thirdly, the speed decreases. Correct.
Yes.
So what is the scissor doing? Usually, actually, what let us see. The scissor is no doubt not only decreasing its effort to be applied, but also the speed is being improved. Agreed or not?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is what is important for us to know. Now the second important thing. Let us think of the second thing. So the cloth for the person is the load. What is the cloth? Cloth is the load. The object on which the effort is being put on. Okay. Of object outcome, outcome object on which the effort is being put on is called as the load. The second thing is the effort. See, effort we put on the machine now. Where is the effort being put?
On the machine.
On the machine.
So when we are trying to cut the cloth, or the tailor is trying to cut the cloth, he is not directly applying effort on the cloth. Do you think so?
No,
His
sir.
fingers are there with the handles of the scissors, and the handles of the scissors are actually cutting the cloth. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. What is the third important thing? The third important thing is they need support for that tool. All tools need some or the other kind of a support. Okay, remember that. And a support in the sense, the support at the somewhere near to the effort and near to the even the load. And that is called as the fulcrum. I think so in grade 6 you all have studied about this types of levers. Am I correct? Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
You have studied types of levers. Which types of levers did you all study? Can you all tell me?
First class lever, second class lever, and third class lever.
First, second, third. How did you all differentiate between them?
In first class lever, the fulcrum is in the between.
In class 1 lever, the fulcrum is somewhere in between. Okay. What about the other things? Yes.
The effort is in the left hand and the load is in right hand.
Left and right. Okay, I'll take it for a while. Chalo, left and right hand. Chalo. Anything else? Second class. Chalo, tell me about the second class.
The fulcrum is in starting.
Fulcrum is in
Start point.
And load is in between, and effort is at the last.
effort is at the end, load is in between. Okay. What kind of lever is it? Is it class 2 or class 3?
So I think class 3.
Class 3. Okay. And class 2, the effort is in between. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Correct. You're correct, actually. Okay. Now, what actually happens? Listen. Did you all even study something about, what you can say, efficiency of a machine? Did you all study somewhere in grade 6?
No, sir.
Not studied? Okay. See, there are a few things that we need to know. What is the use of a machine for advantage purpose? Am I correct? We should have some advantage, only then we'll use the machine, correct? Or are you going to use the machine just for the sake? You need
No,
some outcome from it. You need some help out of it, correct? We need
Yes,
some
sir.
Yes,
benefit
sir.
of using a machine. That benefit would be in terms of the amount of you doing the work on the object and the work that is coming out from the machine on the object. You're putting in your efforts on the this thing, correct? On the machine.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So your effort, now the machine is transferring it on the object. The tailor is putting his effort with the fingers on the pair of scissors, and the pair of scissors is converting that effort and it is applying it on the machine. Sorry, on the object. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
So now you tell me, wouldn't it be helpful if the less amount of effort is being applied and more amount of work is being done?
Yes, sir.
Yes, correct. So that is important for us. Less effort and more outcome, but from our end. Okay. Now that is called as mechanical advantage of a machine. See, I don't know. You know trolley bags. You all might have used a trolley bag. How many of you have used it?
Yes, sir.
You all have used the trolley bag. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What happens in a trolley bag and a normal bag? What do you feel?
The trolley bag has a wheels.
Sorry.
The trolley bags have wheels, so we
1 minute. Let the train pass by.
sir,
Yes, please go ahead.
sir, trolley bag has wheels, so with less effort, we can push it easily or pull it.
The voice was soft. Can someone repeat that?
So he said that the trolley bags have wheels, so it is easy to.
Yeah, it is easy to carry. That's it. You have to apply less effort. Okay. So if less effort is to be applied and more is the outcome, that is important for us. In short, all your effort has been multiplied and more load, okay, more heavy objects have been carried up, applying even less amount of force. That is the use of a machine. And that is what is called as a mechanical advantage. Okay, that is the mechanical advantage. What is the mechanical advantage? The mechanical advantage is nothing but, okay, the effort, okay, the ratio of load is to effort. And this was taught in grade 6. Load upon effort is called as a mechanical advantage of any machine. You take any machine, that any machine, okay, is going to give you a mechanical advantage with respect to the effort that you put into the machine and the outcome, the load that is overcome after we have worked on the machine. Understood what is mechanical advantage?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
The
sir.
ratio of load is to effort. Now let us understand the another thing. Okay, you'll have seen a seesaw.
Yes, sir.
Might have played on it. What am I asking? Okay, you'll have played on it. Now there are two ends of a seesaw. Okay, there are two places. They are equal in length. For a seesaw, they are equal in length. We know that. Or even a beam balance. Correct. If one person, think of a beam balance. Okay. On one end, if you insert some mass, what will happen? What will happen?
Sir, the one side will go down.
The part where mass is applied, it will go downwards.
Will go down. Say, for example, it has traveled down by maybe 2 feet. Okay. There's another pan which earlier they were at the same level. Now there is another pan. So this fan has gone down. What will happen to the other pan?
Sir, the
It will
other
lift
pan
up.
will go up.
So it will go up. How much will it go up? By
So 2 feet.
2 feet. Okay, fair enough. Agreed. Everyone agrees with this.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now think, why does it go equal? You know why?
So because the
Because-
other end went 2 feet down, that's why the other should also go 2 feet up.
Yes, correct. The beam balance has been placed exactly. The balancing is exactly at the center of the beam balance. Think of
Sir,
you
the
shifting it to one end,
center
somewhere
of gravity.
nearer. What will happen? Will it have the same displacement in both cases then?
No, sir.
No, it won't. Okay, it won't. So remember that whenever, this is called as velocity ratio. The place where you are applying effort and the place where the load is traveling, the ratio of the displacement of the two is called as the velocity ratio. So what was the first of, tell me, what is the mechanical advantage?
Load by effort.
Load by effort. So velocity ratio is a little reciprocal, kind of reciprocal of it. It is nothing but the velocity of effort to the velocity of load. What is velocity ratio?
Velocity of
effort
effort upon velocity of load.
Correct. And I'm speaking about displacement, sir. You'll say, sir, you first spoke of displacement and suddenly you're speaking of velocity. What is velocity? How do you define velocity?
The distance covered by a body in a particular time.
Time. Correct. Are we applying both things? Are they moving at the same time? The effort and the load also? Or will it happen? I have now put in the effort. After half an hour, the load has come up. ऐसा होता है क्या कभी?
No, sir.
No, sir.
जब भी आप अप्लाई करोगे दोनों मूवमेंट एक ही साथ होगे ना, इसलिए फिर वो वेलोसिटी हो गया. डिस्प्लेसमेंट अपॉन टाइम, डिस्प्लेसमेंट ऑफ एफर्ट अपॉन टाइम, डिस्प्लेसमेंट ऑफ लोड अपॉन टाइम, दैट इज द वेलोसिटी रेशियो. सिंपल लॉजिक
Yes, sir.
Yes.
है ना. तो इसलिए वेलोसिटी रेशियो को और एक तरीका है, इसीलिए वो लोग ऐसे कहते हैं is equal to displacement of effort upon displacement of load, because velocity is dE upon time, same time, divided by dl upon the same time. Time gets cancelled and you get this expression, है ना. displacement of effort upon time divided by displacement of load upon time. तो टाइम तो एक ही टाइम पे हम लोग दोनों चीजें होगा अगर एक मशीन काम कर रही है तो इसलिए टाइम कैंसिल हो जाता है. And what is left is displacement of effort upon displacement of time. That is called as the velocity ratio. समझ में आई बात?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Now
sir.
remember one thing. जब तक आप उस मशीन के पार्ट्स का मतलब एक जगह से दूसरी जगह नहीं लाओगे, है ना, तब तक वो वेलोसिटी रेशियो चेंज नहीं होने वाला. ये याद रखना. For a given machine, if we do not make any changes in the internal composition of the machine, okay, if we do not make changes in the composition of the machine, what is it? The velocity ratio never changes. In short, for a given machine, okay, till the physical conditions remain the same, okay, till the conditions of the machine are kept same, the velocity ratio remains constant throughout. तो क्या चेंज हो सकता है फिर? हमने याद है पिछले अभी यही चैप्टर में लाइट में हमने पढ़ा कि फ्रीक्वेंसी कभी बदलेगा नहीं. क्या बदलेगा? तो वेवलेंथ बदलेगा और दूसरा क्या बदलेगा? क्या बदला था दूसरा? वेलोसिटी बदला था. याद है कि नहीं?
Yes, sir.
इसमें भी वैसा ही है. इसमें वेलोसिटी रेशियो कभी नहीं बदलेगा. तो दूसरा क्या चीज बदल सकता है? तो मैकेनिकल एडवांटेज बदल सकता है. क्या बदल सकता है? मैकेनिकल एडवांटेज. ये याद रखना, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है. इसके ऊपर कई बार क्वेश्चन आया है. व्हाट इज द फिनोमेना दैट रिमेन कांस्टेंट फॉर अ मशीन, एनी मशीन? ओके, तो ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन. बहुत बार बच्चे गलत, मतलब यही क्वेश्चन ट्विस्ट और टर्न करके सामने दिया जाता है और बच्चे इसका गलत जवाब देते हैं या बच्चों को इसका जवाब ही नहीं पता होता. ये छोटा सा कॉन्सेप्ट है, बहुत छोटा है, बट 1 मार्क के लिए वो आ जाता है और 1 मार्क आपका खा सकता है. तो इसको याद रखना. इट इज अ कांस्टेंट, व्हाट यू कैन से, वैल्यू. इट रिमेन्स कांस्टेंट। अच्छा मुझे एक बताओ अभी मैकेनिकल एडवांटेज का यूनिट क्या होना चाहिए? मेजरिंग यूनिट क्या होना चाहिए मैकेनिकल? मैं और 2 मिनट लूंगा और आपका, और फिर मैं अगला संडे से स्टार्ट करता हूँ। चलो बताओ मैकेनिकल एडवांटेज का मेजरिंग यूनिट क्या होना चाहिए? मेरा बहुत आसान सा सवाल है। और वेलोसिटी रेशियो का मेजरिंग यूनिट क्या होना चाहिए?
सर उसे यूनिट ही नहीं है।
यूनिट ही नहीं है, क्यों नहीं है? बिकॉज वी आर डिवाइडिंग द सेम रेशियोज, वी आर कंपेयरिंग सॉरी सेम क्वांटिटीज। हम लोग मैकेनिकल एडवांटेज में क्या क्या कर रहे हैं पता है? फोर्स को कंपेयर कर रहे हैं, एक इनपुट फोर्स और एक आउटपुट फोर्स, तो दोनों का यूनिट सेम है, तो कैंसिल नहीं हो जाएगा क्या वो?
Yes, sir.
So because it is a
Yes, sir.
ratio of load and effort, similar quantities, there is no unit of measurement of mechanical advantage. Similarly, velocity ratio also, we are comparing displacements or we are comparing velocities of things, and therefore there is no unit of measurement of both of them. ये भी एक tricky सवाल आता है, बहुत बार आता है ये tricky सवाल, और ये आके गया है। आप देखो पुराने पेपर ट्राई चेक करके देखो बोर्ड एग्जाम्स में, ये क्वेश्चन कई बार आके गया है। Okay, just played as a trick, just to play a trick, है ना? तो ये याद रखना। अभी आपके किसी के स्कूल में ये बताया गया क्या लिवर्स है नहीं, या लिवर्स ओमिट हो चुका है? किसी ने बताया किसी स्कूल में आपको?
सर अब तक सिखाया नहीं है, उन्होंने अगला पुलिस स्टार्ट कर दिए है।
नहीं, आप मुझे एक बात बताओ, ये लिवर्स आपको पढ़ाया है कि नहीं है स्कूल में? ये बताओ पहले।
नहीं सर, 10th स्टैंडर्ड में नहीं पढ़ा है।
अभी तक नहीं पढ़ा है, और ये चैप्टर है आपको एग्जाम के लिए?
Yes, sir.
हाँ सर,
और चैप्टर
कंप्लीट
ही
हो
नहीं पढ़ा
गया
है?
है पर वो चैप्टर स्कूल
सॉरी,
में कंप्लीट हो गया स्कूल में वो चैप्टर।
पूरा चैप्टर कंप्लीट हुआ है, मतलब सब कुछ पढ़ा है उसके अंदर?
हाँ सर।
चलो, तो हम लोग अभी 3 क्लास के लिवर पढ़ेंगे, ओके? और उसके सी एक्चुअली लिवर्स को हमको डिफाइन करना नहीं आएगा अभी इस बार, हमको आइडेंटिफाई करने की ज्यादा जरूरत पड़ेगी। डिफाइन करना बहुत आसान है, क्योंकि हमने इसको डिफाइन कहाँ पे किया था? ग्रेड 6 और 7 में किया था ऑलरेडी। So we'll now no longer be required to define them. We'll be required to identify them in the given example. कि ये क्लास 1 का लीवर लग रहा है, ये क्लास 2 लीवर है, ये क्लास 3 लीवर है, ये बताएगा। उसके लिए हमको पहले तो बट यस नो डाउट हमको लीवर 1 क्या है वो पता होना चाहिए। लीवर 1 जिसमें क्या होता है? एफर्ट किधर, सॉरी ये किधर होता है फल्क्रम?
बीच में।
बीच में, करेक्ट?
Yes, sir.
Fulcrum in the middle, and one of the two sides is effort, the other side is load, correct? एक साइड
Yes,
को
sir.
एफर्ट होता है, दूसरे साइड को लोड होता है, तब हम उसको कहते हैं कि दैट इज क्लास 1 लेवल, है ना? तो ऐसा कौन सा एग्जांपल्स है जिसमें ये होता है? सीसो जैसे हमने एग्जांपल किया, उसके अंदर जो मतलब सीसो जिसके ऊपर रोटेट हो रहा है वो बीच में होता है,
Yes, sir.
हाँ
और
सर।
दोनों बाजू में क्या होता है? बच्चे बैठे होते हैं। तो the one which is going down will be called as the effort, the one which is coming up हम उसको लोड कहेंगे। दूसरे इंस्टेंस पे क्या हो जाएगा? वो नीचे की तरफ जाएगा तो उसको एफर्ट कहेंगे, और ये बाजू वाले को लोड कहेंगे, है कि नहीं?
Sir, and also nail
हाँ
cutter.
सर।
सॉरी, नेल कटर, we'll take that, I'll accept that example of a nail cutter also, correct? Nail clipper, okay? Hammer claw, nail clippers, seesaws, and pair of scissors, okay? Then your क्या कहते हैं उसको? Pliers. These are examples of class 1 level, okay? अभी क्लास 2 और वो हम लोग बाद में पढ़ेंगे, okay?
Yes, sir.